Namaskar. Welcome back to another podcast. We just finished our podcast with Dikshit Bhattacharya on his book on delimitation and democracy. And in half an hour's time, we are back with our regular programming on philosophy, spirituality, and a little bit more of current scenarios. So we are back with our regular guest, Dr. Bijit Prashanta, who is going to deliver a kind of a sermon, I would say, to all faithful, sermon from the Pope to all the faithful, natural morality and the progressive Hindu left. A very interesting and intriguing title that he has only come up with because I do not, I could not come up with that kind of title. He has come up with a path beyond identity politics. So, politics, Hindu left, and natural morality. So philosophy, politics, and individuals as identity. A very volatile cocktail, which we'll talk about today with Dr. Vijit Prashanta. I don't know what he's going to talk about. So for me, it's also a very novel thing that he's going to say because we had not discussed this. It's going to be impromptu thing. So I will be as eager listener as anybody else who is going to watching this podcast. So Bijitda, over to you. I will be in the back end, so I will just jump in when we have a question or I have a question.
Sure.
Continue.
Okay. Thank you. Right. So today we are pretty much going to discuss a very important topic um, that is probably going to unify some ideas from our Hindu spirituality or Hindu darshana, so to say. And then obviously from that, a bit philosophical idea that I'm trying to develop on natural morality. And then using natural morality, we are going to understand the residue of action, right? Karmafal. And from the residue of action, the karmafal, we are probably going to understand pretty much like what is there beyond these kind of things. Is like, can we come up with a framework which is a very practical framework? Because most of the time we Hindus have been blamed ki whatever frameworks you are developing, the framework of moksha, the framework of nirvan, those are sort of as if they are away from the samsara, right? Away from the all worldly functioning, as if you have to go to a cave or something, or even if you are working within the society, within samsara, you have to stay sort of very aloof, um, and using these kind of moral structure, right? This kind of sort of teleological understanding of moksha. People have been blaming, the intellectuals have been blaming ki you cannot develop anything, you cannot create a society, you cannot create a state, you cannot rebel, as if Hinduism, Jainism or Buddhism, they are very mild sort of philosophy, right? These are all the blames that we in general experience when we try to propagate about Hindu dharma, as if Hindu Dharma cannot bring to the world any kind of revolution or rebellion against a king or against a state, right? Um, so this blame we are pretty much going to discuss, and we are going to understand, is it really genuine, or even in the modern context, now that we are getting to know about our Hindu Dharma even more, we are digging up into this ancient sort of darshana. We are trying to make sense out of it, and we are like hellbound to sort of come up with a framework together, all the Hindus, that will be more practical, more applicable, and a framework with which we can talk to the state, right? So the practical Hindutva, so to say. Although it is a very sloppy phrase, I did not want to use it, but you get the sense where I'm trying to go with this. Like karmafal, for example, right? I mean, is there any okay? There is a probably a philosophical understanding of karmafal, but how to use it to understand the worldly affairs, the nucleation of power, state. Can we do anything um, uh, with this sort of framework of karma and karma fall and all these things? Um, and then using those very ancient, all the eternal ideas, can we sort of frame a scheme that will be useful for the Hindu progressive left or the progressive Hindutva, progressive Hindu dharma, whatever you call it, right? If you are not happy with the word left, but again, I am using all these words in the canonical sense. Um, uh, uh, but if by left, if you understand, okay, someone who want to bring a change to the existing system, right? So this whole Hindu progressive left ecosystem that a lot of people are working on, how can we use our eternal ancient ideas in order to come up with something which is very progressive, very modern, very rebellious, right? And which will probably, I mean, in the whole process, it will appeal to the quote unquote the Gen Zs, right? The Gen Zs are actually being blamed, I don't know, rationally or irrationally, that okay, they are whatever going away from these core values, um, and some of the lifestyles or whatever they are adopting is probably a little bit. It is more Abrahamic than it is pro-Hindu, and all these sort of phobia and fear that are being propagated in our Hindu society. Probably we are going to address that. Okay, so this is the sort of broad framework that I'm trying to address. And in order to sort of develop this framework, we are going to use a few important, you can, I don't know, you can call it axioms, presuppositions, which are very obvious, I guess. And some of the presuppositions will actually be the problem that our Hindu society as a whole is facing. Um, Probably I'll start with all this de-Brahmanization, decolonization, right? Like the Indian political theory by large. So, right. So, also at times I'll be quoting from this book, Franz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, uh, that I've been going through. And this book is actually about uh, decolonization. I mean, this book is very much contextual to the decolonization of African nations, but there are a lot of things that Franz Fanon is talking about, which has which is coinciding with the the problem that we face in India, because India was once colonized by various Ashrafi and British powers. Okay, so we're probably going to quote a few things, like the the historians and their distortion, the structure of the police state, or the function of the police in order to perpetuate a colonial power, a colonial state inside a nation. So all these things I am going to probably bring some of the in order to explain those ideas. I'll probably use some of the quotations from this book at times. Okay, so right, so basically when we talk about natural morality, right? I mean, we have been discussing about okay, there is a first of all, if we want to decolonize India, we have to de-Abrahamize India, right? In the Indian context, we have already discussed it in one of the episodes in Indian political theory that de-Abrahamization is decolonization. Okay, if we manage to de-Abrahamize our mind, if we manage to see all the pitfalls and all the distortions in our psyche that we have been affected with due to the advent of Abrahamism in our country, we'll probably be manage to um, sort of remediate all these sort of bugs in our psyche, and we'll come out as better human beings, undoubtedly. Now, Why Abrahamization is bad? So, in order to explain that, we already talked about intention morality, right? Um, so, we already discussed that intention is probably not a very good basis of morality. मतलब जैसे धंधाबाजी जिसे कहते हैं, right? Intention is not a good basis of morality because morality, if there is something which is called a moral framework, it must be eternal. It must be beyond any dynamics or any political dynamics or the dynamics of any kind of change, right? It must be eternal. It should not change at the whim of environment or at the whim of a person's intent, so to say. Morality, if it exists at all, it should not have a birth and a death. Okay. um, and because it is objective, right? It should, which means that if it is there, it must exist independent of independent of the individual, right? It must exist independent of how you are thinking what morality should be, frankly saying. And then we can go even beyond that to understand that intention can never be a good basis of morality, because um, you see, whatever our perceivable universe is, it runs on some basic scheme. For example, causality. Causality says that there must be a cause which should precede the effect. Okay. And in this process, what you create this whole sort of tree of causality with various branches, right? So we don't know whether there was a primal cause or not, but that is not necessary even now. If there are like effects, it must have a bunch of cause. So it's like a sort of transition matrix, which is actually multiplying with each other in order to create the reality, right? Um, and in this whole scheme of causality, if cause is preceding effect, there is a sense of temporality, right? Because cause precedes effect. When you say precedes, you have a sense, you are assuming a sense of time, right? And we know that the very fabric of space-time, right? Space and time are obviously entangled, and we know it with utmost certainty. Now, in the whole fabric of space-time, right? It is it is in a way it is framed in, it is not independent of the framework of reference. So if I have a sense of space and time, someone else will have a different sense of space time. Okay. So this far we know space time is not an absolute idea. Okay. The next thing is that if there exists something um, which is singular in space time. For example, a close uh, analogy of a singularity in space-time, at least inside our psyche, is instinct, for example, right? Because how we react to anything, we have, okay, we have our sensory organs, we are perceiving some information, based on that we react, right? So there is a bridge of time, right, between the perception and our action. Now, for all these instinct, like there are a few things that we do at times which are very instinctive, right? In all those points, you have this bridge of time which actually collapse into almost into a singularity. Okay. So in the sense that there is no perception of time, you don't depend on the sense of time in order to give that response, the instinctual response, right? um, so this is one, probably this is one example. I can give you multiple example even inside us that happens, which are actually beyond the idea of this canonical space time, or beyond the idea of this whole scheme that we try to build in order to create dynamics in order to explain dynamics in the universe, right? I can give you a few more reason actually in order to make my argument even more solid, and I feel I need to do that. So give me some time to open the doc, because some of the rationales are actually important in the context of this discussion. Right. This is it. Mm, Just give me a second. Right. Right. I mean, first obvious point is there is left-wing Hindus and elites. They both are left-wing progressive. Yeah, we will probably discuss this point. Okay. So the one point is that intention, as you know, it can be surreptitiously deceiving, right? I mean, it was probably the intention of the decaying, quote unquote, priestly classes to dupe and control the poor and downtrodden faction of the society with the fear of God that invented the Abrahamic doctrines such as Christianism, right? I mean, obviously, intention, specifically good intention, can at best drive the causal physical structure in the positive direction, but it can never dictate the spontaneous thrust with which a man tries to shape his surrounding to assume control over the consequences of his karma and destiny. Okay. So I'm saying that any good code of morality must be spontaneous. It should not be reward specific. Okay, there is an effect. There is a teleological reward that I will be getting. Hence, I'm doing this, right? It should not be that base. Like the morality should not be that much superfluous. So any good code of morality must be spontaneous, and it only gets colluded by the sheer inorganicness of predetermination intrinsic to any intention. Okay, it is precisely this inorganicness that makes intention more of a work of fabrication than a spontaneous origin of morality. It is the lack of spontaneity in intention that makes intention prone to pollution, right? And then the second point is intention always has a physical origin. It is fundamentally a reaction to the chemistry of the external world or to the chemistry of mind, its thoughts and actions. Purely as a physical phenomenon, intention is bounded by causality, rendering it incapable of being a primary cause, right? I mean, if you have an intention, intention is bounded by causality, so that intention might have another something deeper than intention itself. So anyway, from that perspective, it cannot be a basis of morality, right? Consequently, if we think of morality as the fundamental underlying fabric of existence, another sentence that I'm not explaining, but uh, take it for granted as of now. Immorality, in order to give meaning to this life and existence, you need a morality. Okay, like you need to create meaning, and when you try to create meaning, it must be weaved in the fabric of morality. So hence I am claiming that okay, morality is a fundamental underlying fabric of existence. Then morality itself must live at a much deeper, profound level of reality than intention itself. Intention essentially is a derivative of logic. Hence, its scope is inherently reduced and much limited compared to the broader expanse of morality. Okay. So thirdly, as we have already talked about, it has an intention as a span over the spatio-temporal existence of physicality. So it hence it has its own dual in the at the same level of reality, right? If you have good intention, you have a reciprocal bad intention, living in the world, right? At least hypothetically, the existence of its own dual at an identical level of physicality ensures at least a couple of things. It, point one, intention cannot be defined in a universal way. It cannot be invariant along across all beings, right? If you're saying that okay, this is my intention and it should be the basis of morality, um, at the same physical level you have a reciprocal of that good intention, which is a bad intention, and someone can have it as well. So this thing exists with its own sort of dual framework. So hence, by very, I mean, by the logic itself, it cannot be a fundamental basis. Secondly, because intention is bound by a causal chain. The framework of any intention morality can fail even before the cunning linguistic, ontological, or epistemological construction, which further alienates it from attaining the level of a universal structure. Right? कोई कुछ बातों के जाल में तुम्हें फंसा सकता, right? And you will say that okay, I have an intention of duping you, and that is the basis of my morality, but that cannot be true, right? Fourth is the domain of intention is intrinsically bivalued, defined in terms of objective behind an action and its complementarity. Right? But bivalued logic is the foundation of much of the classical reasoning. You need something again, something deeper than that. Then fifth is intention is an individualistic idea which can be difficult to universalize. Right? It's like okay, Stalin has an intention, and then he want to universalize it, and he's calling whatever my intention is about the state, about the nation, about people, individuals, that should be the basis of morality. I mean, it's stupid, right? Sixthly, sixth point is both good and bad intention originate both good and bad actions originate from intentions, right? Therefore, even if we hold the standard of morality from the consequence of one's intention, we cannot specify its definition from intention. Intention morality is as real as intention immorality, right? So hence, again, it cannot be fundamental basis of morality, right? Seventh, tabutization of intention has done much damage to humanity than we can ever imagine. Once the political mind of the wretched manages to convince humanity of the reality and utility of something like intention, they could start the missionary propaganda like duties, not in the sense of spontaneous human expression, but in the sense of an intention driven action. कोई समझा सकता है कि सी बेसिकली गेट दिस इंटेंशन एंड देन उसके हिसाब से फिर मिशनरी काम करना चालू करो. It can do damage to humanity. Intention is frail and dangerous. It has dissuaded human beings from being lost in the absolute beauty of this world. Moreover, convinces himself that behind the creation of everything beautiful around him or her, there must be an intention, right? A divine intention. Now, that is basically a vanity. Like, this is a vanity for a man to create God in his own image. जब तुम बोल रहे हो कि चलो ये दुनिया कितना अच्छा है, इसके पीछे एक इंटेंशन है, that's basically the origin of Abrahamism. Ninth, intention is not definer and definitely not the golden standard of morality. Vice knows it is ugly, so it does not roam around naked. It always puts on a mask, the mask of good intention. If vice were to wear its true face, it would repel and disgust us. But vice is not so foolish. It knows that in a society where moral righteousness is upheld as the ultimate value, it must disguise itself in virtuous clothing. It must hide behind the mask of good intentions to carry out its agendas unnoticed. Right. And then the forceful insertion of intention into noble ideas like truth, love, peace, beauty, respect, devotion, rights, duties has irreversibly twisted these concepts, reducing them from their original pure forms into hollow caricatures. Right? जो तुम्हारे नोबल जो चीजें हैं, जो आइडियाज हैं ह्यूमैनिटी का, उसमें जब इंटेंशन डालना चालू करते हो, जैसे मिशनरी करता है, क्रिश्चियनिज्म करता है कि एम्पैथी दिखा के अपना conversion agenda chalao, right? They have weaponized a very core human value, which is empathy, in order to propagate some superstition, right? That is dangerous. Now, 11th point is intention is corrupted. If the intent of intention is corrupted, and ad infinitum, right? Yeah, we have already discussed. And then, if intention is the switch to illuminate action, someone else is pressing the switch. Intention, when we think of it as in its simplest form, can be described as a force that direct us toward the specific outcomes or behaviors. Now, but intention is not as autonomous or self-determined as it seems. If is merely a will, then it stands to reason that something external, something underlying is responsible for having that will. That will is in the direct control of some object, right? If there is a will behind the intention, someone is something else, some agency is having that will, right? So hence intention itself is not the origin of morality. It cannot be. So I can go on. I have like 20, 25 reasons that I have provided. But so intention cannot be the basis of morality. But if you look at Abrahamism, they have adopted intention as the basis of morality. So this intention morality, if I can call it, right, this धंधाबाजी को अगर intention morality कहे, then Abrahamism has adopted intention morality. They have prescribed and described, like they have adopted, obviously described, and then prescribed also the intention morality. And then when humanity start to adopt that intention morality in our society, in the formation of state, in their practice of power, it has created great damage. And it is the intention morality that has created Abrahamism, this almighty, whatever kind of God sitting above us, watching us all day long, recording some observations, right, based on which there will be a teleological reward or punishment, hell or heaven, and all these kind of things. Now, because of this, from this intention morality of Abrahamism, that कुछ भी कर दो फिर उसके justify कर दो एक, right, कि किसी को मार दिया justify करो कि whatever, कि ये अल्लाह का मर्जी नहीं था, right. तो ये intention morality से फिर they have actually, when they went out to kill people, to genocide, intention morality जब आता है, from there it becomes very easy to tabootize. Tabooization से फिर otherization आता है, otherization से आता है dehumanization. And once you dehumanize a faction of within a society, then you can kill that faction, that lead to genocide, right? So Abrahamism, like, no wonder by the adoption of this intention morality, they have done great damage to our nation, to the society, to the world. It is the intention morality that has enslaved us in the Indian context or in the African context. It has enslaved, it has practiced colonialism, right? फिर colonialism जब हुआ, वहां से फिर great damage has been done. फिर ये जो intention morality था, ये like a poison, it has spread into the whole of our society, whole of our Indian society, जहाँ पे intention morality के basis पे कुछ judgment नहीं होता था. This was a country where it was a country of honor, जहाँ पे specific honor code होता था, सबको लगभग ड्यूटीज पता थे. और ड्यूटीज जब पता होता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि सारे लोग बहुत अच्छे थे. इट वाज लाइक वट एवर, इट वाज सॉर्ट ऑफ हेवन ऑन अर्थ एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स. कुछ चोर नहीं था, चोर चक्का नहीं था, कुछ खराब काम नहीं होता था, ऐसा नहीं है. बट फ्रेमवर्क वॉज डिफरेंट. फ्रेमवर्क वॉज डिफरेंट मीन्स कि लोग जैसे ड्यूटी में, लाइक पीपल यूज्ड टू वर्क एज पर देयर ड्यूटी, राइट्स के लिए नहीं झगड़ते थे. सो द होल argument of duty versus right, it's basically the argument of spontaneous morality versus intention morality. Spontaneous morality मतलब अंदर से जो आता है, right, जो spontaneous है, जो natural है, वो morality, उसको भी मैं डिस्क्राइब कर सकता हूँ, बट हाँ आगे थोड़ा डिस्क्राइब करूंगा. बट you get the sense, right? Again, I will describe it, but whatever you are thinking of natural morality, what it should be, that actually is natural morality. Obviously, कुछ bias आ सकता है because of all the gunas that has affected your aham, right? Your agency that is there. It has been affected by various outputs, various perceptions that you're receiving through your senses. But you have inside your core, you have some sense of natural morality, right? Some sense of natural, spontaneous morality against this intention, scriptural, external, synthetic morality promoted by Abrahamism, right? तो फिर ये जो इंटेंशनल मोरालिटी का जब ये फ्रेमवर्क आया, देन obviously it was easy to promote the idea of rights against the idea of duties, right? कि अगर ऐसा नहीं था कि हर गांव में पुलिस की चौकी है, लोग अपने हिसाब से काम करते हैं, अपना ड्यूटी समझते हैं, उस हिसाब से निभाता है। अगर इस कंट्री से पूरा ही ये गायब हो जाए, सेंस ऑफ ड्यूटी गायब हो जाए, पूरा ही मान लीजिए नेचुरल मोरालिटी गायब हो जाए, शायद उसी को हम लोग कली युग कहेंगे, घोर कली कहेंगे, कि पूरा नेचुरल मोरालिटी गायब हुआ, पूरा इंटेंशनल मोरालिटी से एक समाज चल रहा है। तो फिर रूल करना, स्टेट के लिए भी रूल करना मुश्किल हो जाएगा, राइट? बट द पॉइंट इज कि ये जो नेचुरल मोरालिटी है, इससे ऐसा लगता है कि वी कैनॉट न्यूक्लिएट, बिकॉज इट इज सो बेसिक एंड सो इंडिविजुअलिस्टिक, राइट? कि इससे न्यूक्लिएट करना है एंड सोसाइटी फॉर्म करना, ये थोड़ा मुश्किल हो सकता है, राइट? नाउ और दूसरा क्वेश्चन अभी यहाँ पे पूछ सकते हो कि ठीक है, थोड़ा बहुत इंटेंशनल मोरालिटी समझ में आ गया, बट नेचुरल मोरालिटी कैसे डिफाइन करोगे? एंड हाउ डू यू नो कि भाई जो मैं सोच रहा हूँ वो एक जो 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 मोरालिटी में अडॉप्ट कर रहा हूँ अभी, कि आई एम थिंकिंग ओके समथिंग, राइट? मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग दैट वी डू और वी थिंक दैट हैज अ मोरल क्वेश्चन, राइट? ना वो मोरल क्वेश्चन वो नेचुरल मोरालिटी की तरफ जा रहा है या सिंथेटिक मोरालिटी की तरफ जा रहा है, या मतलब इंटेंशनल मोरालिटी की तरफ जा रहा है, ये समझे कैसे? मे बी आई एम थिंकिंग कि भाई मेरा ये नेचुरल मोरालिटी है, मे बी इट इज नॉट नेचुरल मोरालिटी एट ऑल, मे बी बिकॉज कि मेरे साथ कभी कुछ हुआ था, एनवायरमेंट ने कुछ अफेक्ट किया मेरे ऊपर, तो मेरा अहम चेंज हुआ, मेरा ईगो चेंज हुआ और एजेंसी चेंज हुआ, उसके वजह से जिसको मैं नेचुरल समझ रहा हूँ वो एक्चुअली एक बायस है, राइट? वो नेचुरल नहीं है। नाउ फिर नेचुरल मोरालिटी अगर है, और अगर इफ आई एम क्लेमिंग कि नेचुरल मोरालिटी एग्जिस्ट, फिर हाउ टू डिफाइन इट, लाइक हाउ टू एग्जैक्टली नो कि यार आई डोंट हैव नेचुरल मोरालिटी एंड आई हैव टू गो टुवर्ड्स इट, राइट? कि ये जो मेरा मोरल सेंस है ये नेचुरल नहीं है, ये मैं भटक चुका हूँ, राइट? इसका you must be asking for some objective definition of natural morality, है ना? कि if I'm claiming कि intention behind morality, or intention morality should be discarded because intention is a very subjective, superfluous, sort of flimsy basis of morality, then and if I'm placing natural morality against it, right, and natural morality as the foundation of our moral sense or framework, then natural morality should be in a way very objective. It should be universal. It should be eternal in some way, right? Now, how to manage that? Right. So here again we are going to introduce the common idea that we know already, in a very different way, if I may. But let's see where it goes, right? Obviously, in our philosophical understanding, we talk about karma fall, and all these things, right? And then it seems like this framework again is also flimsy, कि हम लोग कुछ करते हैं, मान लीजिए मैं बहुत अच्छा हूँ तो मेरे साथ तो कुछ भी हो सकता है, राइट? मतलब मेरा कुछ बीमारी हो गया, राइट? आई गेट सम वेरी लाइक बैड डिजीज, लेट्स से, राइट, which can kill me. ना फिर तो कर्म और कर्मफल जुड़ा हुआ नहीं है। ऐसा ऐसा हमें काफी टाइम लग सकता है, राइट? और तो फिर इसका मतलब क्या रहा फिर कर्म का, कर्मफल का? ये इसका फंडामेंटल बेसिस कहाँ है? फिर एक जगह भगवान बोल रहे हैं, राइट, कि दुखेषु अनुद्विग्नमना सुखेषु विगत स्प्रिय वितराग भय क्रोध तस्मात् मुनि रुच्यते, राइट? वितराग भय क्रोध स्थितधि मुनि रुच्यते। तो अगर इस तरह का कि या फिर यथाशक्ति कार्यम कुरु मा फलेषु कदाचन। तो यहाँ पे फिर अम, भगवान बोल रहे हैं कि तुम कर्मफल का चिंता मत करो, तुम बस काम करते जाओ। दैट्स अ मोर एक्सेप्टेबल फ्रेमवर्क, कि चलो चिंता मत करके तुम काम करो पैशनेटली, और फिर जो मिलता रहे उससे तुम ज्यादा प्रभावित ना हो, राइट? यू डोंट गेट दैट मच इन्फ्लुएंस्ड with the karma fall. You just keep doing your karma. I mean, that is more justifiable and more acceptable, easier to understand than our जो कर्म फल वाला जो आइडिया है कि कर्मा इज, बोलते हैं ना कर्मा इज अ बिच, राइट? ये तो वेस्टर्न सोसाइटी में ये सब बोला जाता है। सो क्योंकि वो जो मीन करते हैं वो कर्म फल मीन करते हैं, बट उसको कर्म बोलते हैं, एक्चुअली कर्मा बोलते हैं। नाउ हाउ टू मेक सेंस ऑफ दिस, बिकॉज ये अगर हमें थोड़ा समझ में आ गया, फिर प्रोबेबली हमें ये जो दो, एक जगह एनोमली दिख रहा है एक जगह नहीं दिख रहा है, ये दोनों को मिलाना फिर आसान हो जाएगा ना, हाउ टू मैच दिस, राइट? सो इसमें हम लेट्स पुट natural morality here. Okay, so let's claim that okay, the morality that does not generate karma fall is natural morality. Okay, now what does it mean? So for example, when you use intention morality, again, intent, like you can have good intention to create good thing, but I'm saying it cannot be a basis of morality, right? And again, intention is not fundamental of morality, fundamental basis of morality. So if you do something with intention, right, वो झलकता है फिर, it reflects. So for example, you see a screen, right, which is rectangular. So someone has planned कि ये जो स्क्रीन है इसको रेक्टेंगुलर रखेंगे, दैट्स व्हाई यू आर सीइंग इट रेक्टेंगुलर. सो उसका जो इंटेंट था, उसका जो इंटेंशन था बिहाइंड दिस एक्शन, उसका एक रिफ्लेक्शन यहाँ पे झलक रहा है. Someone who designed this YouTube or the phone, right, कि someone who designed the phone, they thought कि चलो इसको रेक्टेंगुलर रखते हैं, इस शेप का रखते हैं, let's give it this much length, x amount of length, y amount of width. That's why you are seeing these things in this specific shapes. So basically, these are so someone did the karma, and you see the karma fall here, right? Very sloppily saying, someone intended this. That's why you are seeing. So in the whole world, right? When we perform an action with an intention, it creates a residue, it creates a result. Okay, so if there is an intention, it is reflected in the result that it creates. Okay, this is basically information theory and nothing else, right? So now what I'm saying here is that if you use intention morality, or if you use intention, shortly saying, to create something, it stays. It creates it in the result. You see the shape of that intention in some way. But spontaneous morality or natural morality is something that does not create any karma fall. Okay, so for example, I mean, let's say a couple of people are having a spontaneous conversation. Okay, in that conversation, if it is completely spontaneous, obviously the agency is involved. Agency of each individual is involved. They are communicating. But if it does not have any intention or any manipulation, no one, the other one will probably not be affected. Right? Let's say you are someone who is completely manipulative, is talking to someone who is completely fool. In that case, the manipulative person will be affected, will be able to manipulate the fool person, right? And change the psyche of that fool person, or at least some perception of that guy. So in that sense, in that kind of conversation, right? I'm using a very simple linear example, the most simplest example possible. A manipulative guy talking to a fool person. So obviously, in the change of the psyche of that fool person, it is the residue of the intent of that manipulative person, right? So in that conversation, you see the application of intention morality and its residue, right? So this is the structure. Ki if you have whatever good or bad intention, if you have intention behind some action, right, and if you perform the action with that specific intention, उसको झलकता है, उसका रेसिड्यू झलकता है, right? Now, natural morality is something जिसका कोई कर्मफल क्रिएट नहीं होता है सच, ठीक है? जिसका एज सच कोई इंटेंट का कोई रेसिड्यू क्रिएट नहीं होता, राइट? So the I mean, it does not create karmafal in the sense that the residue of intention morality, um, uh, while it is real, there is no residue of spontaneous or natural morality whatsoever. Okay, so okay, so then I'm saying ki, okay, the morality that does not generate karmafal is natural morality. It is the karmafal that is the residue of intention morality, and conversely, this intention morality is the result of and also feeds into one's aham or ego, right? कि ये जो इंटेंशन मोरालिटी है वो तो अपने पे भी असर करेगा ना. इफ यू इंटेंट समथिंग, ऑब्वियसली उसका असर तुम्हारी ईगो पे रहेगा, राइट? द पर्सन हु इज मैनिपुलेटिव एंड मैनिपुलेटिंग दैट फूल पर्सन, दैट फूल अदर फूल गाय, उसका जो बंदा मैनिपुलेट कर रहा है उसका भी तो जो अहम है, उसका जो एजेंसी है वो भी तो इफेक्ट, he is also getting affected by the manipulation that he is doing, right? Now once ego is not involved in action, or if one destroys his ego completely, or if one acts with natural morality, then his action does not generate any karma for, right? कि अगर ईगो ही नहीं है मान लो, तो फिर वो जो रेसिड्यू क्रिएट हो रहा है वो ईगो नहीं है तो उस पर काम नहीं कर सकता, राइट? इट कैन नॉट ऑल चेंज द ईगो, चेंज द, इट कैन नॉट ब्रिंग अ चेंज टू द डायनामिक्स ऑफ अहम दैट इज देयर, राइट? और इफ वन डिस्ट्रॉयज हिज ईगो कंप्लीटली, जिसको हम मोक्ष कहते हैं, कि मोक्ष क्या है, कि उसमें कोई ईगो नहीं रहता, राइट? Everything become one and one become everything. So in that case, or if one acts with natural morality, then his action does not generate any karma for it. मैं अगर अंदर से एक बहुत spontaneous conversation if I am having, then it is not going to affect my ego. कि मैं एक इसमें एक कहानी आता है, आई थिंक कोई तिब्बत का कोई मॉन्क उसके डिसाइपल के साथ जा रहा था. they were trying to cross a river. Probably there's a woman who was not able to cross the river. Then the monk actually carried that girl or woman, उनको पार करा दिया, and then they started going again. The disciple asked कि why did you, like हम लोग monk है, we should not, like we should stay away from woman, then why did you do that? And then the monk was like, मैं उस लड़की को तो वहां पे छोड़ के आया हूँ, राइट? But you are right now you are carrying that moment in your head, right? तो basically ये एक, so यहाँ पे क्या चल रहा है, यहाँ पे there is this event, right, which is affecting someone's aham, and that person, whatever, like because that guy had an ego which was trained and taught with some traditional education, so to say, right? That like he took all these perception and created, like fade it into his ego. That's why he had some ego with which is thinking, the agency that is thinking कि ये तो बुक में लिखा नहीं था तो ये इसने क्यों कर दिया, राइट? So इसीलिए फिर one if one acts with natural morality, then his action does not generate any karma for it. जो छोड़ के आया, right? जो नेचुरल मोरालिटी था, वो जो मॉन्क था, बुद्धा मॉन्क जो था, इसीलिए उनका जो वो नेचुरल मोरालिटी से काम किया तो वो छोड़ के आ गया. सो उससे कोई कर्मफल क्रिएट नहीं हुआ. सच जो क्रिएट हुआ वो दूसरे बंदे के ईगो को और अहम को उसने अफेक्ट किया, राइट? खुद का कोई उसका ना शायद ईगो था, एंड ही वाज आल्सो एक्टिंग आउट ऑफ नेचुरल मोरालिटी. तो हिज एक्शन at the most simplest level did not generate any karma fall, right? There's no karma fall. Ego is born and enhanced when one indulges with maya, any concept and object of perception that is inherently changeable, hence has dynamics, right? So you know that this world, as we see, like we perceive space and time, there's duality, there is causal chain. यहाँ पे फिर हमारा जो अपना जो स्क्रिप्चर है वो बोलते हैं एनीथिंग दैट इज चेंजेबल, जो जो चेंज हो सकता है, जिसका परिवर्तन हो सकता है, वही माया है, राइट? सो कोई भी चीज जिसका डायनामिक्स है, दैट इज माया. ओके. So now, if you have an ego, obviously it is changing with time, right? That agency in that sense, right? That aham, it is changing with time. So ego is born and enhanced, right? तो जो एक्सटर्नल मान लीजिए, जो एक्सटर्नल चीजें हैं, जो फिजिकल परसेप्टेबल जो चीजें हैं, राइट, दे आल्सो हैव देयर डायनामिक्स, हेंस दे आर बाय डेफिनेशन दे आर माया. और फिर अंदर का हमारा जो एक चेंजेबल एक चीज है जिसको अहम कहते हैं, they talk to each other, and in the process ego is born and then enhanced. Any concept or object or perception that is inherently changeable and hence has dynamics, right? कि ये जो माया है इसका अपना डायनामिक्स है. तो अगर तुम ज्यादा इंटरेक्ट करने लगते हो, जो चीजें ज्यादा चेंजेबल है, राइट, which has huge fluctuations, उससे जब बात करने लगते हो, उससे जब परसीव करने लगते हो, इंटरनलाइज करने लगते हो, तो तुम्हारा ईगो भी थोड़ा उसमें भी असर आता है. ईगो का भी एक डायनामिक्स उसके हिसाब से क्रिएट होता है. दिस लीड्स टू इंटेंशन मोरालिटी ऑल्सो बीइंग चेंजेबल एंड हैज डायनामिक. तुम्हारा जो अहम है, द अहम दैट यू हैव, द ईगो दैट यू हैव, that is actually perceive and propagate the intention morality, and that is generating that intention na. So this leads to intention morality also being changeable. तो अगर तुम्हारा अहम चेंज हो रहा है, उसके हिसाब से तुम्हारा इंटेंशन मोरालिटी भी चेंज होगा, राइट? एंड हेंस द डायनामिक्स. तो इंटेंशन मोरालिटी का डायनामिक्स भी चेंज होगा. इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ दिस चेंज लोगों को चर्च खड़ा करना पड़ता है कि दुनिया इस चर्च कैन नॉट, चर्च लगता है कि हम लोग अभी जो लिख देंगे ना उसको क्लेम कर देंगे कि दिस इज अनचेंजेबल, दिस इज द ट्रूथ कमिंग फ्रॉम गॉड. 200 सालों में सब कुछ चेंज हो गया जो चर्च इमेजिन ही नहीं कर पाता था. ठीक है, उससे पहले उन्होंने लाइब्रेरी जलाए, लोगों को मारा, यूरोप को कन्वर्ट किया, हाँ, आर्टिफैक्ट्स बर्बाद किया, मूर्ति तोड़े, पूरा हिस्ट्री गायब कर दिया रोम का. देन क्लेम किया कि हमने जो बाइबल लिखा है दैट इज द वर्ड ऑफ गॉड, दैट इज इटर्नल. 200 साल में चेंज हो गया. वो जो उन्होंने कांड किए थे उससे एनोमली क्रिएट हुआ, राइट? लोगों को पता चलने लगा कि भाई इन्होंने क्या क्या कांड किया है. तो फिर 200 साल बाद चर्च को कुछ नया इंटेंट एंड नया एक्शन लेना पड़ा कि फिर हम कुछ नया क्लेम करते. ठीक है, 1500-1600 एडी में फिर जब लोगों को पता चला कि अर्थ इज नॉट एट द सेंटर ऑफ द यूनिवर्स, तो फिर चर्च को उस हिसाब से या तो लोगों को मारना पड़ा या थोड़ा बहुत खुद को बदलना पड़ा, बाइबल को री इंटरप्रेट करना पड़ा. उससे भी काम नहीं हुआ, राइट? कॉलोनियलिज्म जैसे उनको मोटिवेटेड लिटरेचर क्रिएट करना पड़ा. सो ऑब्वियसली द माया इज चेंजिंग. एक्सटर्नल जो वर्ल्ड है वो चेंज हो रहा है, उसका एक अपना डायनामिक्स है. उसके हिसाब से अहम एजेंसी चेंज होता है, एजेंसी चेंज होता है तो इंटेंशन मोरालिटी चेंज होता है, राइट? So this is all the work of Maya, right? This is all the this has its own dynamics. Now, diminution of ego is hence necessary because it helps us to grasp the natural morality. Now, अगर जो चीजें बहुत चेंज हो रहा है उस पर ध्यान जाएगा, if you keep your what, like let's say you have some ego, उसको जितना इसमें इन्वॉल्व करके रखोगे वो उतना चेंज होता रहेगा, राइट? एंड बिकॉज यू आर द ऑब्जर्वर ऑफ योर ईगो, तो वो अगर इधर उधर चेंज होता रहेगा, भटकता रहेगा, उसका डायनामिक्स बहुत फ्लक्चुएट करेगा, देन तुम्हें तुम्हें जो नेचुरल चीज है, जो तुम्हारा और अंदर से आता है, जो आत्मा से आता है, वो तुम you would not be able to see it, right? So diminution of ego is hence necessary because it helps us to grasp natural morality, the form of morality which is unchanging, unflinching, and eternal. Okay, and which does not create any natural, which does not create any karma fall, right? So this is the idea that I wanted to discuss here, to connect the idea कि तुम्हें जब कृष्ण बोलते हैं कि तुम कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मत करो, राइट? माँ फलेषु कदाचन. तो वो बोल रहे हैं कि ये जो माया है ना, उससे ज्यादा मतलब उसको उससे दिमाग खराब मत करो, राइट? You do not get involved in this changing dynamics of the samsara, right? This whole world, it has its own dynamics. देखो, उसको ऑब्जर्व करो, बट उसको अपने ईगो में मतलब आके निचोड़ो मत आके, ठीक है? So this is one point. The second point is like, okay, you believe in your natural morality. You do not uh, like create this intentional morality, because intentional morality is not. You need to know that these are not the fundamental basis of yourself, right? Morality is fundamental to your existence. The moment you think कि your intention morality is the fundamental basis of yourself, तब क्या होता है? तब you have your intent, और फिर उसी इंटेंशनल मोरालिटी से जो काम करते हो, दैट ऑल्टर द environment outside you, and that environment then come back to you, and alter your or change your ego, right? It shape the dynamics of your ego, right? So यही basically शायद this is the bridge between these two ideas, कि when you have natural morality, it does not create karma phal, because it is spontaneous, right? Now, this also tells us something which is again very paradoxical, which is that the people with probably who has like huge ego, for example, they are more vulnerable to manipulation. If you let's say if you have like huge ego and you think like you are the master of manipulation, for example, right? Just like colonial masters, right? They think that okay, they are very supreme, because they are controlling the whole, but they have some big empire where the sun doesn't set, and they are the masters race and all these things, right? So people with and race with huge ego, they are more vulnerable to manipulation, because they are relatively more blind in seeing the truth. They cannot see the truth, right? Hence they are more vulnerable to manipulation. अब वो किस शेप में आएगा उन्हें पता नहीं है. वो इस शेप में हो सकता है कि लंदन में उनका जो चर्च है उसको तोड़ा जा रहा है, कन्वर्ट किया जा रहा है, जलाया जा रहा है यूरोप में, राइट? इट कैन कम इन वेरी वियर्ड वे, बिकॉज यू आर नॉट बीइंग एबल टू सी द ट्रूथ, so much engrossed in intentional morality and motivated literature and motivated whatever, like external fabricated um, flimsy morality, that you cannot see the truth, so you are more vulnerable to manipulation. Okay. Now, this also tells us something even more deeper, right? Which is that okay, so in this modern life, right? If, like this, like pretty much the whole world has become in like, ठीक है, depends on the geography and all, but overall, like the tendency of the modern world is very much like materialistic, capitalistic, right? I mean, the capitalism is that slowly conquering the whole world, and people are getting involved in all these kind of materials, artifacts, right? Products. You see, कि बड़े बड़े जो साधु हैं वो भी they are also getting prone to all these uh, modern inventions that are there, right? Now, um, now because these are all part of Maya, because again they are bound to change, right? And based on this change, it will affect your psyche. So, what is the way out? Is there a way out? Because if I mean, in a way, what I am claiming right now is that capitalism is actually altering your ego, right? Capitalism is probably enhancing your ego, and hence making you prone to intentional morality than listening to your own call, in a way. So, what is the way out? So, way out is again very canonical, like very ancient, and very eternal. It's that amidst the chaos of this modern life, meditation is essential prerequisite to grasp natural morality. Okay, there still exists at least one way in which we can still understand what our natural morality is, which is meditation. Meditation, I don't know it once in what sense it is. Dhyan, right? Dhyan, yoga, this is the essential prerequisite to grasp the natural morality. Okay. Now, this when we talk about this, like if you think of this whole thing from this perspective, right? Ki meditation is the way to know the Maya, the whole capitalism, right? Like if I am a critic, if I am a philosopher, if I want to judge and understand the structure of capitalism or the structure of colonialism and all these various facets of Abrahamism, like these are essentially Abrahamism, right? Because they are all creation of the same kind of intention morality that once originated with the invent of Judaism, for example. So how can I understand this whole structure, the intention morality that is around me? Like log jo advertisement de rahe hain, marketing and all these things, right? Marketing of the politicians, of the products, of the states, right? Of mullahs, maulavis, priests, right? ये जो चल रहा है, ये जो ड्रामा चल रहा है इस दुनिया में, ये समझने का सबसे आसान तरीका क्या है? आसान तरीका यही है कि पहले खुद को तो जान लो. What is the natural basis of yourself? What is the natural morality within you? वो जब जान जाओ फिर उसके साथ तुम कंपेयर करोगे. अच्छा, ये मेरा बायस था शायद जो वहां से आया होगा. कोई इवेंट मेरे लाइफ में रहा होगा जिसके थ्रू मेरे लाइफ में एक बायस आया. And with that colored biased lens I'm probably judging someone else, right? तो this is in a way very, like मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ, right? um, it seems like this is a very calm passive thing, but when you are applying it in order to understand something like colonialism or capitalism, all these things, then it becomes quite rebellious, right? Meditation is a rebellion in a way. Meditation or dhyan or yoga is a rebellion against this whole structure of intentional morality. जो मैट्रिक्स तुम्हारे आसपास है, जो दिख रहा है कि जो जो तुम्हारा ईगो को ऑल्टर कर सकता है, हमेशा तुम्हारे पास आ रहा है टू ऑल्टर योर, टू चेंज योर ईगो, टू टू मैनिपुलेट यू. उसको देखने का सबसे आसान तरीका है being meditative, okay, being in dhyana. So in that way, this is such an essential practice and quality to have in life, जिससे आ, जिससे तुम एक फौज क्रिएट कर सकते हो. एक एक लाइक if you have a connection of people who are regularly meditating, who are regularly trying to understand himself or herself, and in the whole process, the functioning of this changing world, namely the Maya, right? Then it's like creating an army to fight all these vile intentional moralities that are around us, right? So अब यहाँ से फिर आ जाता है कि if this is a rebellion, then जो जिसको बोला जाता है कि दिस इज एंशियंट प्रैक्टिस, फिर दिस इज पता नहीं ट्रैड हिंदू विंग promoting trad things, and raitas. The trad people say that raitas don't have foundational basis of their Hindu activism. Raitas says that ki trad people are actually like they believe in ancient things which should be, some part of it should be discarded, and some there should be some progressive attitude. Now what can be more progressive than this, right? Ki you are meditative, you are in dhyana, you understand yourself. In the process you are explaining this whole progressive western, quote unquote western progressive movements. uh, इससे ज्यादा प्रोग्रेसिव क्या हो सकता है, राइट? सो यू आर यूजिंग अ ट्रैड प्रैक्टिस, राइट, इफ आई मे से सो, which is meditation, to explain to the Raita wing that hey, this is wrong and this is why this is exactly wrong, right? So if you have an army which are actually meditative, who are talking about and discussing various things with each other, and in the process they are discovering new ideas, obviously science, math, and then challenging the Western dynamic, which are essentially Abrahamic, which are essentially colonial, and which are essentially very much intent driven, right? racial supremacy driven, then actually this army, right, this group of meditative men, they are more progressive than anyone else in this nation, right? So from that perspective, you can call them the Hindu left, Hindu progressive left. It does not matter. Here you have a group of men who are actually refusing to stay one dimensional. Okay, who is a group of men who refuse to be duped by the advertisement of intention morality, right? So this is what I wanted to actually bring before you. First of all, natural morality, if you adopt it, it would not generate any karmafal against, let's say, intention morality, which generate karmafal, and it binds you in the causal chain of the world, right? And when you are not creating karmafal because you're spontaneous, you're natural, you practice natural morality, it I mean, in a reciprocal way, it does not add to your ego. It doesn't, it diminishes your ego gradually, right? Once the ego is gradually removed, probably you see more and more truth. So I mean, if you think about moksha, for example, moksha also has a teleological end again, right? कि एक बंदा बहुत ध्यान कर रहा है, फिर सांप बाप आ गया, राइट? वो काटने आ गया, फिर भी नहीं डरा, फिर अफसर आए, नाचने लगे. He was not, he was still like this unflinching sort of tapasya for these many months. खाना पीना नहीं हुआ, फिर उसे मोक्ष मिला. This teleological thing, this sort of, there is a sense of teleology here, right? I mean, almost as if this is almost Abrahamic. Although in the process, the, the sadhu, he or she knows himself or herself, right? But uh, अगर तुम नेचुरल मोरालिटी अडॉप्ट करते हो, राइट, ऑब्वियसली मेक रेगुलर मेडिटेशन फॉर एग्जांपल, in the process you gradually diminish your ego, and in the process you see more and more truth. You become more and more patient with yourself, and gradually you explore the whole fabric of natural morality, like naturally who you are, right? And obviously to each his own, or to each her own, but in the process you discover yourself, and that is probably moksha, right? So this gradual awakening of yourself, and in the process this challenge you're posing before the structure, before the state, I think this is quite rebellious, and hence, like this actually unites. Meditation is something which should actually unite the trad and the raita wing, and in this, through this process, we can actually gradually will emerge, if it is allowed. Like if the meditative practices, if it becomes popular among us, it will probably make a very strong nation. Okay, people will be very self-aware, argumentative. They will see the design of this matrix of the state, and this will be a very rebellious act if we can pull it off together. And hence, like without doing much, we are actually taking the nation and ourselves toward a very progressive direction. So this was my submission on this topic. Maybe we can have a discussion along this.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Vijitda, for this very deep understanding of morality, of progressiveness, and also of identity. And we finish with a solution: meditation. Meditation is the ultimate solution to
A
unite the
rebellion,
Raita and the
yes.
Trads.
Meditation is a rebellion. Like for all those people who want to do some revolution, right? This is revolution. I mean, पहले लगता नहीं था, but actually now I think this is the best way to rebel against all these vile intents, right? Which come in the form of state, in the form of Donald Trump, in the form of, I don't know, some tweet from Elon Musk, कि donate to this and that, कि हमारा share value बढ़ाओ. Hi Rishi.
Yeah, okay. So
Namaste.
Namaste.
let me first just tell people who are channel members, they can actually join us directly and share their opinion, their thoughts, and ask questions or explanations, whatever they feel like. So channel members, feel free to join. You can go to the community section, community post section. In the community, you will have a members only post which will be visible to only members, so they can click on the link and join us directly. And
Right.
people who have asked questions, we'll take some question, and also we will have Rishi has also joined us, so we will take the question and we'll try to answer the best of our abilities. So okay, this is interesting. So Mr. Anindya Chakraborty is asking, do you believe in the infinite regress of cause or in the existence of the universal being?
No, so I am actually trying to rise beyond this whole chain of causality or this regress that you are actually asking of cause and effect. I believe that whenever you have causality or you have this sort of, like in a causality, you have this duality of cause and effect, right? If there is a reality which is unflinching, unchanging, and eternal, it will be beyond this perceptible causal chain. It should not be bound by the causal chain. The causal chain should not be able to grab something which is eternal. The moment you are saying ki it is in this whole chain of causality, then you are accepting that it is subject to changes. It is, if it is subjected to change, then it is not eternal, right? And then it is not universal as well.
Okay, now we have one more question from Nina. So Nina is asking, left and right fundamentally believe in adharmism. Do you agree,
Adharmism
or
is.
yeah, or do you agree or disagree with the
No, I
statement
mean this is
made
a
by
very,
Nina?
again, very क्या बोलते हैं उसे, very generic statement. I
I
mean
think
there are various people.
one clarification. I think Nina is talking about the Western concept of right and left, not because
Okay,
in
okay, right,
dharmic perspective there is no left and right. Correct. In dharmic perspective there
right,
is no
right.
left and right. What Nina is probably Nina you can clarify. But whatever understood from your question is that you're talking about the
Western left and
Western
Western right.
construct, right?
Right. So Western left and Western right. So Western right believe in ideas like Christianism, for example, like which itself is a very adharmic ism, so to say. It is ideology. It is a superstition, right? I mean, we have already discussed the Cicero's design. Cicero called ki this is superstition, and Cicero gave a design, and then Romans actually used his design to understand ki Christianism is actually a deep superstition. But gradually the whole idea of superstition as a religion got subverted, and Christianism claimed that it is a religion, and paganism is superstition. Okay, so obviously it is adharmic. It has intention, morality. It is not eternal. Now, what about the Western left? I mean, Western left believe in ideas like communism, for example, capitalism, and all these isms. Right? They have some sort of intention, morality. They are not spontaneous. Um, and now Trumpism is coming, right? I don't know, Groyberism, all these ideas, right? Like these radical sort of movements with some vile intent. Nazism, Nazism, I mean, Nazism and Christianism are basically, if you understand Friedrich Nietzsche's genealogy of morals, if you use that framework, you'll be able to understand that this is the, like, Nazism and Christianism is the different side of the same coin, right? I mean, both are asking for like drawing your pathos and your sorrow, your empathy in order to execute something vile. So yeah, so all these isms like the Abrahamic left, who claim that they are very progressive and bringing changes, they're also I mean adharmic from that perspective, because they don't believe in something which is non-changeable objective truth or objective morality. So I would say that they are adharmic as well.
Okay. So Darth Vader has asked one more question. There is no difference between left wing and Hindu right wing elites. They are both left wing progressive. Hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting.
I mean, we have already discussed, right, Bhupender, ki this thing. When you apply it to the idea of Brahmanism, right, like people are trying to portray Brahmanism in one lens, uh, but right, I mean, Bhupender will be able to explain it better. But the idea was that, so for example, casteism, like, come on, like you know that again, like this is casteism is not an eternal thing. Or caste, for example, that idea of caste as it is, it's not an eternal thing. Hence, it is not it, which is not eternal. That is not Sanatan. Sanatan is eternal, right? Sanatan means eternal. So caste is not eternal. But then British came and made it permanent, right? Um, this is a tabooization that they did, and then obviously Brahmins who fought against it. Uh, and then some Brahmins who actually said that Brahmins are responsible for this, right? And in the whole process, you see that, for example, B.R. Ambedkar, like he was a product of Brahmanism, if I may say so, right? Because if you say whatever Brahmins do, that is part of Brahmanism, because Brahmins are the eternal evil and oppressor. And then Brahmins created, it is Brahmanism that created B.R. Ambedkar, okay? In order to whom? In order to fight Brahmanism itself. See, this is not making sense because the whole idea is absurd. Um, but if you say ki Hindu right wing, as we explained, ki, you see the very act of meditation itself is so rebellious, right? It stops a man from being one dimensional, stops a man from being manipulated, right? It stops a man from being the soldier of all these weird or dharmic ideas. It makes it like this trad right wing idea is a rebellious left wing. It has a left wing rebellious overtone to it, you know. So I mean, from this perspective, also it is very difficult to distinguish ki in Hinduism what is left wing and what is right wing, because if something is eternal, if something is always applicable, uh, it will stop being called conservative. कंजर्वेटिव इज समथिंग विच इज की चलो थोड़ा इसको पकड़ के रखना है, कंजर्व करना है, इसको छोड़ के नहीं जाना है. बट समथिंग विच इज इटर्नल, इट डज नॉट स्टैंड ऑन द लाइन ऑफ these narratives. Something is true, something is eternal, right? It does not need to stand on that line of narratives. Hence, these things, these are eternal things, so it can be progressive as well as conservative, because they are Sanatan, right?
Yeah, so actually we were discussing this specific point. Thank you for asking this question. So, like, the British created casteism or the atrocity literature, and the term Brahminism, where or the Brahmical patriarchy, which was oppressing everybody, every inch and every individual is oppressed by the so-called Brahmins. Okay, so the data which was gathered by the British was given by the Brahmins. Okay, and the whole movement itself of Brahmanism was spearheaded by the uh, people with Brahmin surnames. Whether you can call them a Brahmin or is a again is a separate debate, but they had Brahmin surnames. Correct. The biggest supporters, propagators, and they created the whole ecosystem where you have this Brahminism being taught, propagated through generations, are leftists who are primarily dominated by Brahmins. Okay, people who have Brahmin surnames. I will not call them Brahmins, but they have Brahmin surnames. Okay, they have their lineage. So ironically, it is one set of Brahmins who are fighting against this concept of Brahminism, and on the other side, you have people who are Brahmin surnames are propagating it for a few decades, correct, with the ideology of the left. So, and that is something which is a lot is not discussed on the both sides, correct, that trads would not or the trads or the people who are on the right side would not call them out, okay, these are not Brahmin people who are doing this, they will just say they are doing bad things. On the other side as well, uh, they will actually call out that you are a Brahmin and you did all these bad things. So it is between ingress groups who are fighting this, and everybody is facing the brunt of the consequences. That was being discussed by myself and Vijitda.
Right.
Das Vedar has one more question, which is interesting. He is asking, each generation progressively is more deracinated than the previous one. It seems that the Hindu revival is happening, but it is mostly reactionary and superficial. These are two important points which we need to discuss. Reactionary and superficial. On socio-cultural level, it's going in other directions. Now, a lot of loaded questions are there. So, Bijidda, uh, first of all, address whether this generation, okay, or let's say our generation and the coming generation, are they as deracinated as the previous generation in 70s and 80s?
Um, See, I mean, again, it will be very. I was not there in 70s or 80s, so but uh, let's put the perspective on the framework itself. If something is eternal or Sanatan or the natural morality itself, right? It is universal. It does not change with time. So, um, people of any age, of any time, can actually practice it. So I'm pretty sure in 70s, 80s, there were many people who actually practiced meditation and got to know the reality. Maybe they did not get that much advertisement because they did not advertise because they were not people of intention morality. Now there is this whole digital medium through which the Hindu Dharma is being propagated. Maybe spontaneously, people are talking about it. Some ideas we are applying in our own life, and they are working perfectly, fitting given this whole capitalist structure that we are living in, right? Even inside this like highly capitalist structure, we can still apply those dharmic values, and still we are sort of doing good in a way. And not only us, there are, I mean, the Christians, the padris, and all these people. They have started promoting Christian meditation. Okay, because there are many yoga and meditation studios that are growing in USA. I mean, even in places like UC Berkeley, for example. UC Berkeley, I've seen like colleagues from mathematics and physics department. They just sit in the afternoon and do meditation there, right? So people are gradually, the very smart people are gradually adopting these sort of lifestyles because this is giving us some real values. This is not like some preaching or some intention-driven propaganda or anything, right? You just sit there, you try to know yourself, you meditate, right? Get yourself rid of any idea, ego, and anything, thoughts, whatsoever. So from that perspective, it does not change. Anyone at any time can get it, and it is so easy to go back to yourself. Now, um, obviously, people there's a chance because this society is more capital like that 21st century society will be more capitalistic than the 20th century society. So obviously, people if they go with this flow, they will be more deracinated. Obviously, from that perspective. Now the second part is ki it seems the Hindu revival is happening because it's more reactionary and superficial. I mean, See, some part of it is basically uh, some part of it is actually intention driven, right? Some part of it is definitely intention driven, because there are certain form of advertisement that are involved. Various or Hindu organizations, various uh, actually sadhus and other sannyasis, they are adopted to the style of advertisement, and advertisement is basically intention driven. So definitely, definitely there is, from that perspective, some amount of superficiality is there. But again, in the capitalist society, you need some money to function. In order to gather money, you have to keep this whole chain. Probably that sadhu himself or herself, they know कि भाई ये इससे मेरा ईगो को बड़ा छोटा नहीं होना, इफेक्ट नहीं होना चाहिए. इट इज जस्ट अ सर्कल दैट आई हैव टू फॉलो इन मॉडर्न सोसाइटी without getting affected by it. कि you have to you have to basically create the whole create a network that will keep this whole chain going. The money machine, right? You have to keep it active. But it really depends कि if the sadhu is being affected by it. वो दिख जाता है, वो साधु के इंटेंशन से, बात से दिख जाता है कि वो क्या करना चाहता है. Is it reactionary? Definitely. As I've said, ki, there is an active attempt that is going on inside India to decolonize ourselves. And definitely, we are speaking in English right now, which is a British language. I mean, but we are taking it in a way कि चलो 30-40 बाद इस लैंग्वेज पे हम लोग कब्जा कर लेंगे. ये इंटेंशन थोड़ा बहुत रहना चाहिए, right? And the amount of Indians who speak English is probably more than the number of British people whose native language is English, actually. So definitely it is reactionary because it is a process of, like, we have been trying to decolonize ourselves through various means. In our we are trying to decolonize our philosophy, our thoughts, our psyche, our administration, our legislation, our laws, right? So definitely it is reactionary, but hopefully it will stay, and it will continue in a productive direction rather than destructive direction, like making Rahul Gandhi the Prime Minister of India. That kind of thing, probably that sort of reactionary movement we should not do, actually. Again, I am not promoter of any party or anything, but I can openly say that this guy, this buffoon, is actually very much. It's a danger to our democracy. I mean, this guy should go, and someone like Shashi Tharoor, although, and at least he's better than Rahul Gandhi, who should be in the opposition. Right. So on a socio-cultural level, it is going in other direction. But yeah, we have to create this whole army who are actually meditative and can bring back the discussion to this eternal universal sort of concepts.
Yeah, okay. So just to answer one specific question regarding reactionary and superficially, you need to first understand that if you are a Sanatani and you believe in the philosophy, the tenets of our scriptures, correct? In that context, it is eternal in nature. Okay, so at a given moment of time, let's say currently, you are seeing a lot of things which are not very helpful in terms of Sanatani culture or Sanatani ethos being practiced by a lot of a majority of the people, and maybe people are going in other direction. But you are taking a like a snapshot of the current moment. Okay, you have to look at it in the broader context, that what was the situation 70 years ago when the communists came and changed all the syllabus. Right now you have Vikram Sampath who is writing books, you have Jesai Deepak, and you have many other people, correct, who are now part of the mainstream. Can you imagine a Jesai Deepak being a mainstream person in 1980s? Absolutely not. He would not even get a chance. So in
Probably
that
be killed.
context, yeah, yeah, so that's what. So you have to look it in that context, that everything that you do is reactionary in nature because there will be something, there's an external force which is acting upon you and then you are reacting to it. So Hindu or Sanatan philosophies groups are actually reactionary because there's external forces who have been trying to harm us
Right.
for more than 2000 years. So obviously you are going to be reactionary in nature, but is it ideal? No. The ideal is to build your own specific frameworks, tools, and plan for next 1000 years.
Right, and in
And
the context, I have to add one subtle point here. So obviously, to each colonial action, we are having a reaction, but what the discussion so far is saying, right, is that we should not be affected. Our agency or the agency of Hindutva should not be affected. The core should not be affected by the reaction that we are creating. We need to know that this is a changing in a changing dynamic world. There are all sort of discussions going on. These are all Maya, right? Because they have their own dynamics, and we are different than that. So, which means we have to, whenever we are performing, let's say, we are having an argument with someone whom we are trying to convince, for example, or we are having an argument and discussion and lecture. Every time we have to maintain one thing. Let's keep our ego at a very low level. Okay, always put on a smile. इतना रिडिक्यूल करने की जरूरत नहीं है जो ट्विटर में चलता रहता है. I think these are more constructive ways in which we can actually propagate it in a positive direction. Now, obviously, I see the utility of rhetoric and जो झगड़ा ट्विटर में चलता है उसका, क्योंकि वो झगड़ा हम ना करेंगे तो फिर लेफ्ट आके हमारा गला दबा जाएगा. But whoever is having those arguments, right, वो जो झगड़ा रिडिक्यूल करना वो चलता रहता है. One who is ridiculing, right? Even as a Hindu, if I am ridiculing someone over Twitter, we need to know that this is not real me. Every time you have to be conscious about that, right? It should not create an ego inside you, should not create a bias inside you. We have to maintain our natural morality. और उस तरफ से जो एक इविल इंटेंशन वाला मोरलिटी मोरलिटी नहीं इंटेंशन इमोरलिटी जो आ रहा है उसको हमारे इंटेंशन मोरलिटी से काटना होगा. Right, I think that's how we should work.
okay, just we'll finish this by giving you a data point. In 1991, India did not had $1 billion in their reserves, and we had to import food from America, the low quality, uh, what is called wheat that they used to give us. So in 1991, we did not had even $1 billion, and we had to borrow few $1 billion and give our gold to Bank of England to keep there, and they gave us some money. The world, IMF gave the money to us, especially the Western countries. Correct. From 1991 to 2026, okay, in terms of purchasing power private PPP numbers, probably India is now third or fourth economy in PPP numbers. So from a bankrupt state who didn't had $1 billion in about let's say 35 years approximation. I'm just giving an approximation. In 35 years from bankrupt state to a fourth world's biggest economy. Have anybody imagined that would happen? So think in data points in historical terms that nothing is static. Today it looks very bad, but it will not remain bad if we do our job as an individual, as a community, and contribute whatever way possible. Okay, we will involve Rishi in this. Rishi, what is morality defined as by the presenters? Bijidda. So Bijidda first will try to
हाँ विजिता को
define
बोलने दो.
morality, what he means. Then we'll ask
What
also
is
Rishi about
morality
it.
defined as by the presenter है? हाँ, so basically morality, what I'm saying कि first point was that intention is cannot be the basis of morality, right? And we already said a few rational reason behind that. Second point, we are saying ki the morality should be defined as something which is natural, which is spontaneous, coming from the Atman, something deeper, something which is deeper than even the metaphysical and um, physical cladding within you. You know, it has to come from something which is singular. It has to come from something which is not bound by the chain of causality. Okay. And what is morality defined as? Morality defined as as again a natural spontaneous reaction to to an event that you perceive at any instant. And so yeah, so this is what I'm calling as a spontaneous morality. And if you want a very like specific definition and deeper understanding of it, I have discussed it in my second book, Split, in detail. We are we are I think it will be published by the end of this year or so. Uh, and yeah, so it is defined as something spontaneous reaction, singular reaction to any event that you perceive in the world of Maya. Now, who is behind it? In Upanishad, there is a word called Rai, the fire within us, right? That is actually uh, generating that sort of reaction, spontaneous moral reaction. But again, morality is defined as a spontaneous reaction, spontaneous outcome.
Yeah, Rishi.
हाँ, यहाँ पे मोरालिटी अगर नीति कोई समझे तो मेरे लिए तो नीति वही है जिससे क्या कहे आर्जवम ही कुटिलेषु न नीति ही पॉलिसी प्रूडेंस विजडम राइट कोर्स वीएस आपटे अगर कोई कोर्स देखे तो पता चल जाएगा उसमें से। और अगर कोई धर्म समझे मोरालिटी से यहाँ पे इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में तो मेरा तो एक ही पक्ष होगा कि वो मेरे लिए अति सहज है, इसलिए मैं बोल पा रहा हूँ। कर्म विकर्म का जो भेद है वही है धर्म, कि जो करना है और जो नहीं करना है उसका विवेक अगर रहे वही मोरालिटी है, एटलीस्ट वो मेरे लिए है।
Right,
सिंपल,
right, right.
स्ट्रेट अप। या
Right.
फिर कोई अगर ज्यादा वेस्टर्न फ्रेमवर्क में सोचता हो वो तो सीधा चला जाएगा एरिस्टोटल के वर्च्यू एंड एथिक्स वाले बुक में। और वो तो बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है मेरे लिए एटलीस्ट। विजिता को पता होगा और विमर्श दा आप भी बोल
नहीं,
पाओगे।
मैं तो जस्टिस वगैरह पढ़ा था, मैंने उस पे लिखा था कि समथिंग हु लाइक इट इज द एक्शन परफॉर्म्ड बाय जस्ट वाइज एंड वाइज मैन, राइट। तो वो लोग तो बिल्कुल एब्स्ट्रैक्ट वे में बोलते हैं कि इफ समवन हु इज कंप्लीटली जस्ट एंड कंप्लीटली वाइज, द एक्शन दैट ही विल टेक विल बी मोर, आई मीन, but that is again a definition given by Plato or someone, I guess.
अच्छा अच्छा, क्योंकि मैंने
Yes.
देखा है कि एरिस्टोटल का एक मानना था। हाँ विमर्श दा प्लीज।
No, go ahead. I'm just showing the page so you can continue.
अच्छा अच्छा, हाँ वो
Yeah,
एरिस्टोटल का
the
ऐसा
point that
मानना
you
है
were
कि
saying, initially कर्म विकर्म, but now वो जो वेद करना है वो करोगे कैसे, राइट? अच्छा, यू आर सेइंग, अच्छा यू आर
हाँ
सेइंग कि ओके उसके में उसमें जो विभेद कर देता है वही मोरालिटी है, यू आर सेइंग।
हाँ
यू आर यूजिंग अ
एटलीस्ट
रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव
हाँ
डेफिनेशन।
जरूर।
हाँ,
हम्म।
राइट। और
हाँ
वो जो विभेद
उसका
करता है वो स्पॉन्टेनियस होता है। या इट्स अ गुड डेफिनेशन
हाँ
एक्चुअली।
Yeah, but in that
सोर्स ऑफ
in that
इंफॉर्मेशन
specific case, in the specific case also correct, because the word vivek, correct, so it has again has different meaning. So in the upanishadic terms, correct, viveka is something, vivek is the word which actually means that okay, you are able to comprehend and then do the decide which is dharma and which is adharma, correct. So
Right.
it is it's a prerequisite that you have, that you are able to use the tool of vivek. So like somebody who is already ego driven, he will not have the vivek to actually do the differentiation, correct. For him, take the correct example of a corrupt politician. A corrupt politician will do, because he has an ego, he will do something which is bad for the country itself in many ways, correct? We have politicians who done a lot of bad things, correct, and they are continue to do the same thing, correct. So in that case, that person doesn't possess the vivek as a tool to actually differentiate which is good and bad, dharmic or adharmic in nature. That is also part of it, because we have to understand
Right.
that part. Yeah, Rishi, go ahead. Like, if you want to add something.
हाँ, नहीं, आपने अच्छे से समझा है, यही है। विवेक बुद्धि मतलब जो क्या कहें, हम अपने दैनंदिन जीवन में जिसका उपयोग तो करते ही रहते हैं कि अच्छा मुझे मेरा ये उद्देश्य है कि मुझे फॉर एग्जाम्पल, उदाहरण के लिए अगर देखें तो मुझे पौष्टिक आहार चाहिए क्योंकि उससे मेरा शरीर ठीक रहेगा, तो तब आपको विवेक करना पड़ता है कि ठीक है, मुझे ये खाना है या ये नहीं खाना है। तो ये बेसिक होता है अपने जीवन में। उसी तरह हम अगर इसको और भी उच्च स्तर पे लेके जाए तो कौन सा कर्म करने से मुझे क्या कहते हैं उसको, कौन सा कर्म करने से मुझे ऐसी सुख की प्राप्ति होगी जो सस्टेनेबल होगा। इट वोंट बी हाईली, मतलब जो मोमेंटरीली एक्साइटमेंट दे पर बाद में जाके मुझे पछताना पड़े। ये जो रियलाइजेशन है, उससे जो विवेक बुद्धि आती है, एटलीस्ट दैट्स माय ओपिनियन कि वो मोरालिटी हम लोग कंसिडर कर सकते हैं इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में। ये मेरा ओपिनियन था, आप लोग प्लीज कमेंट कीजिए इस पे।
नहीं, मैं बोलता हूँ मोरालिटी अगर समझ रहे हैं तो ये कॉजलिटी के चक्कर में ही मत पड़ो। मेरा सिंपल कहना है कि जो बिल्कुल अंदर से जो आ रहा है वो आवाज सुनो, द स्पॉन्टेनियस। नाउ यू कैन से दैट ठीक है, इफ वो क्या पता वो आवाज अगर मेरे ईगो से आ रहा हो, मेरे अहम से आ रहा हो, विच इज अ प्रोडक्ट ऑफ द एनवायरमेंट आउटसाइड, फिर मैं बोल रहा हूँ नहीं, फिर उसको ठीक करने के लिए फिर मेडिटेशन करो। दैट इज द बेसिक सॉर्ट ऑफ फ्रेमवर्क ऑफ माय डिस्कशन कि ये अंदर का जो आवाज है वही तुम्हारा नेचुरल मोरालिटी है, और उसको सुनो, क्योंकि वो फिर कर्मफल क्रिएट नहीं करता। कर्मफल क्रिएट नहीं करता, फिर उसमें तुम बनते भी नहीं हो। तुम अच्छा काम कर देते हो, बट अच्छा काम करके जो कॉजल चेन है उसमें तुम जब बनते नहीं हो, फिर तुम्हारे लिए जिसको मुक्ति या मोक्ष जो भी कहो वो आसान रहता है, और वो हमेशा मिलता है। इट्स नॉट लाइक कि मरने के बाद मोक्ष मिलता है, वो तुम उस मैट्रिक्स से दूर ही रहते हो फिर।
Yeah,
वैसे
one
आप जो कह रहे
example, correct.
हो
Actually, one example I need to quote, because I think that will make a little bit easier for the audience to actually comprehend. See, in many, especially in Eastern India and Western India, correct, when the summers are very brutal, correct, the summers are very hot. So generally, you will see like housewives or even men, women, kids, correct. They will keep a bowl of water outside their home, okay, so that the birds can come and drink, correct, because it's very hot, okay, and sometimes even dogs come and drink that water, correct. So that family, the kids, the husband, wife, daughters, whoever they are doing, correct, the dog or the birds, correct, they are not going to give any money or any kind of thing to that family, correct. So they are doing it just because, like, they're not expecting anything, but there is no causal change in that act. With that act is that, okay, if I am feeling so hot, I am feeling uncomfortable, I need to drink water. The dog or the birds, and there are no water bodies, there are many places especially in cities where there are no water bodies, so then they need to drink water. So by feeling their own thing, they are trying to get that thing and give the water to the animals, correct. So in that case, that family, that individual is not asking anything from the dog, correct, you give me money or whatever, correct. There is no ego involved here, so there is no karma phal
Right.
in that case. So that could be one example, Vijitda, if it's appropriate for, is that
Yes,
something?
definitely. It's a very good example. all the even animals, right? The kind of morality that they show at times, very natural moralities. Rishi wanted to say
Okay, the
something.
yeah, Rishi, go ahead.
हाँ वो विजिता ने कहा ना कि वो मतलब भीतर से जो आए उसको मानना,
Hmm.
तो मुझे मुझे उससे कुछ बहुत ही खतरनाक चीज याद आई, वो अंतरात्मा वाली जो शब्द है। कुछ तथाकथित पॉलिटिशियंस ने 47 से पहले भी और अभी भी इसका बहुत ही प्रबल रूप
यूज
से इसका
किया।
व्यवहार किया है, और हमारा जो बेड़ा गर्क हुआ है उस कारण से, इसलिए वो वाला याद दिलाना था बस, और कुछ नहीं। हाँ,
Right.
आप लोग प्लीज।
Okay, the last question we're going to take for today is what is progressive? Who decides that?
Right. I mean, see, now obviously there is a Hegelian perspective to it, which is coming to my mind right now, which is that the whole human history has a very organic evolution, in the sense that it actually trying to unify into a common historical consciousness. Okay. Now, from that Western perspective, those who are acting toward this unity of human consciousness or historical consciousness are actually progressive. Okay. Now, who decides that? In this sense, obviously, the Hegelian construct will decide this thing. In our context, in the context of Hindu Dharma, प्रगतिशील जो होता है, प्रगतिशील किसको कह सकते हैं? प्रगतिशील उसी को कह सकते हैं जो ये जो नेचुरल इवोल्यूशन हो रहा है। अगेन आई मीन इट्स अ वेरी सिमिलर आइडिया प्रोबेबली टू द हेगल। जो इंसान का नेचुरल इवोल्यूशन हो रहा है, जो प्रोग्रेस हो रहा है, उसके साथ उसको जो ऑर्गेनिकली समझ सकता है और एक ऑर्गेनिक डायरेक्शन में, नेचुरल डायरेक्शन में जो लाने के लिए प्रयास कर सकता है, जिससे लोगों का भला हो, ह्यूमैनिटी का भला हो। सिर्फ ह्यूमैनिटी नहीं, सारे जो एनिमल्स हैं, जो सोशल स्ट्रक्चर है, उसका भला हो, उसको प्रोग्रेसिव कहा जाएगा। जो जो सो ऑल्सो मतलब अगर बिल्कुल ही हमें अब्राहमिज्म को क्रिटिसाइज करके उसका डेफिनेशन देना है, फिर हम लोग कह सकते हैं कि जो अब्राहमिज्म हैज क्रिएटेड a lot of historiocentric moralities. Historiocentric morality, a form of intention morality. कि there was a age of darkness before Jesus. Jesus आने के बाद सब कुछ जैसे शाइन होने लगा. It is the age of illumination. या फिर रसूल आया, रसूल के बाद, उस प्रॉफिट के बाद सब कुछ, उससे पहले एज ऑफ जहालत था, फिर रोशनी आ गया ह्यूमैनिटी में. Now these are historiocentric morality. These are intention morality. And historiocentric morality, in order to promote that, a lot of damages have been done. A lot of genocides, massacres, destruction of knowledge, destruction of truth has been done. उससे क्या हुआ है, ये सोसाइटी में बहुत सारे एनोमलीज क्रिएट हो गए हैं जो हम लोग अब समझ में नहीं आ रहे, क्योंकि अगर लाई प्रोपोगेट करोगे तो लाई से टू फॉल्सहुड कैन नॉट स्टे टुगेदर फॉर इटर्निटी. बट टू ट्रूथ्स, इवन इफ they may seem anomalous, if you know the whole structure of Rith, right, कि एक सच है, वहां से क्या ब्रांच आउट हो रहा है ट्रूथ, तो ट्रूथ्स आर एक्चुअली consistent with each other, if you know the whole structure at least, right. तो दो जो सच है वो कभी anomalous नहीं हो सकता, बट इट इज वेरी अनलाइकली कि दो फॉल्सूट जो है वो इटर्निटी के लिए दे विल बी consistent with each other. सो ये जो एनोमली क्रिएट हुआ है, ये एनोमली को खत्म करके ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशन को यार, और फिर पूरी दुनिया को जो नेचुरल सच्चा डायरेक्शन में, द ट्रूली ट्रू डायरेक्शन, नॉट द अब्राहमिक ट्रूथ, द नेचुरली ट्रू डायरेक्शन जो होता है, उस पे जो ला सकता है, उसे प्रोग्रेसिव कहा जाएगा.
Okay, last words to Rishi. Then we'll wind up the show for today.
हाँ, ये प्रगतिशीलता, प्रोग्रेसिविज्म, ये तो अभी मैं देख रहा था इस विषय पे कि पहले इसका मतलब इस शब्द का उपयोग होता था कि फॉरवर्ड डायरेक्शन में जाने के लिए प्रोग्रेसिव ऐसे यूज किया जाता था, बेकन इन लोगों ने यूज किया है इस वर्ड को। फिर बाद में 1600 से अपेरेंटली ये चालू हुआ है कि अरे प्रोग्रेसिविज्म एक्चुअली मींस इम्प्रूवमेंट। तो प्रोग्रेसिव होना मतलब आप इम्प्रूवमेंट सीकिंग हो, आप इम्प्रूवमेंट चाहते हो, लाइक इट्स एन इम्प्लिसिट एडमिशन राइट नाउ। ये उसमें चेंज हो गया है। और ये एक मैं अभी देख रहा था किसी क्रिश्चियन, शी इज अ क्रिश्चियन लेडी बट शी राइटली पॉइंटेड इट आउट एज ये खुद एक इवेंजेलिकल मूवमेंट बन गया, ये प्रोग्रेसिविज्म। ये जो एक पूरा स्टैंडर्ड है, अब तो ये तो पूरा बन ही गया है वैसा। वो
Right.
कोई अगर यहाँ पे कोई अगर अमेरिकन टीवी देखता हो या फिर अमेरिकन यूट्यूब चैनल, TYT एक है, द यंग टर्क्स बोल के, वो सारे
Right.
प्रोग्रेसिव का पूरा पूरा जमात है। वो ज्यादा नहीं बोलूंगा उसमें। तो अब वैसा हाल हो गया है, क्या क्या बताए। और प्रोग्रेसिविज्म बेसिकली नाउ मीन्स कि ओ वी वांट वेजेस, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, मिनिमम
Minimum
वेजेस
wage.
इंक्रीज करना, सभी का घर, सभी को पानी, सभी को सब कुछ चाहिए। इट शुड बी प्रोवाइडेड टू ऑल विदाउट एनी डिस्टिंक्शन व्हाटसोएवर, फ्री हेल्थ केयर इत्यादि इत्यादि, वो जो नॉर्मल जो चलता है। और कोई भी ऐसा कोई स्ट्रक्चर हो जो इस चीज को लिमिट करता हो, somehow it stops someone from accessing resources for themselves regardless of whatever their role might be in society। कि वो प्रॉब्लम्स देते हो तब भी they have a right to have access to those resources। और जो इसके विरुद्ध काम करता है वो कंजर्वेटिव है, वो फैशिस्ट है, और उसको खत्म करना है। That's the duty of progressives right now,
Antifa,
जितना तक
Antifa
मुझे
जो
लगता है
create
एटलीस्ट।
हुआ है, Antifa,
हाँ हाँ
anti-fascist, ये जो चल रहा है
एकदम, दे आर
सारा
प्रोग्रेसिव्स,
फैसिज्म है और
हाइपर
हमें
प्रोग्रेसिव
खत्म करना है। The most
पूरा,
progressive movement in
बिकॉज दे,
America right now is Antifa movement.
ओ यस यस एब्सोल्युटली, क्योंकि अकॉर्डिंग टू देम दे आर पुटिंग
And
इन सर्टेन स्ट्रक्चर्स ऑन फ्रीडम ऑफ पीपल। वही बात है। हाँ हाँ,
Right.
विमर्शता बताइए।
and and Taliban are the most feminist people on earth. So
अरे
we
आप
agree upon Taliban.
आप कुछ
अच्छा,
लिटरेचर देखिएगा, स्टैनफोर्ड और UCLA, वहां पे तो ऐसे ही चलता है कि द मिडिल ईस्टर्नर्स आर लॉन्चिंग प्रोग्रेसिव मूवमेंट्स अगेंस्ट कॉलोनियल इंपीरियल याडा याडा, आपको जो पता है बेसिकली। वहां पे जो पॉलिटिकली जो शूट करता है वही। हाँ आप प्लीज
अरे
कंटिन्यू कीजिए।
Bhupendra, I can send you a 8-minute video if you can play it right. I don't know.
Okay,
यहाँ पे
send me,
you have
send
to
me.
decide.
Send.
हाँ, मेरा WhatsApp खुल रहा है इधर. You can decide who is more stupid, Tucker Carlson or that Antifa professor. Okay.
They are not stupid. They are not stupid. They are very cunning. They want to make enough money so that they don't have to do this, all these kinds of debauchery in future.
So again, wait a second.
Let me see if we get a copyright strike for this or not. But let's play.
Navavimars at gmail.com. I'm sending there. Okay.
Okay, no problem. I open the mail as well.
WhatsApp is
No.
opening.
Email is open already.
Just send. हाँ.
हाँ तो और एक था ना कि हु डिसाइड्स, हु आर द प्रोग्रेसिव्स, वेल द पावर डिसाइड्स। मैं इतना ही बोलूंगा, जो स्टेट है वो डिसाइड करता है कौन प्रोग्रेसिव है कौन। सिंपल।
जब कांग्रेस पावर में था तब सेकुलर होना प्रोग्रेसिव हुआ करता था.
इंडीड, एब्सोल्युटली, सेक्युलर एज
I
दे
am
डिफाइन इट ऑफ कोर्स।
opening the
As they define it.
link.
Exactly.
Let me see.
सेकुलरिज्म लेके
Fox
अच्छा
News,
काफी
Bijitda.
सारे एपिसोड हमने किया. हाँ.
Bijitda, we can't play this link because we'll get a copyright strike. It's Fox News.
ओके, छोड़ो फिर.
It will ruin the stream.
Right.
Fox News, we can't play.
But you
You
can
know
show
how
the link so that
Cap-
people can see it. Like show them the
what? Yeah,
video
I
so
will
that
just
they can
I will just
watch
yeah
and check कि
uh,
भाई कौन ज़्यादा
yeah.
progressive
Let
है
me
यहाँ पे.
just share my screen and show them, and also put the link here as well in the chat. So I'll not play the video, but here's the Tucker and Antifa supporter. Are you really a professor? So this is, and let me just put the link in the chat as well. If somebody wants to watch it, go and free to watch it.
क्या भयानक
So
एस्थेटिक
this
है,
is
बाप रे.
yes. But he's now correct, independent, correct. It's an old clip or new clip.
Old clip. I think he was with Fox, no, back then.
हाँ, ओल्ड
I
क्लिप, बहुत ओल्ड क्लिप.
correct. It's an old clip
Then
because he is now
yeah,
independent. He left
then he went to
Fox.
Russia, fell in love with Putin, became independent journalist to promote. कुछ
He
भी होता
became
रहता
हाँ,
है.
too independent. He became too independent.
या नाउ ही इज नॉट इवन अ कैपिटलिस्ट इट सीम्स. वो एआई
Right.
डेटा सेंटर पे भी
And
बहुत अगेंस्ट बोल रहा था उस दिन.
so okay, so I think we are done with our questions, so we can wind up the stream. It's now almost midnight. So tomorrow again we have one more interesting research driven presentation or podcast that we'll have regarding the Bengal famine. Vijitda, if you are free, then you can come. We'll do it around 10 p.m.
विवर्स दा,
Sure.
10 p.m. in the
कमेंट्स में
night.
कमेंट्स
We
में
will
कौन
do
आए
this.
देखो आप.
Arey, oh, we have Anand. Anand, long time we have not seen you. Okay,
What
you
is
can
Anand
join
doing?
tomorrow. You
Yeah.
can. Anand is very busy.
Right.
Feeling
We
very hot.
also forgot to discuss this book, Wretched of the Earth. I have to discuss it. I'm just going
Yeah,
through it right
yeah.
now. Brilliant book.
Yeah, anyway,
मोस्ट डेंजरस
when
बुक.
you finish it, finish it, then we'll do a
Yeah, I'm
separate
marking
stream
all
on
the
that
important
book.
lines, and then we'll have a very again fire like feisty whatever fiery discussion, on this topic, on this book actually.
Yes. Yeah. So tomorrow we are going to discuss at 10 p.m. IST the Bengal famine, but not the like data, how many people died, what happened. We're going to do a deep discussion on various books written on this, their historical context, also how, especially Bengali people, how they have documented, observed this impact. Okay, Western scholars, Bengali scholars, literature, how it impacted literature, Bengali psyche. A lot of things we will discuss because this is something which you needs to discuss more to actually remember what happened to those people, to us itself, the Bengal famine. So we will have that podcast tomorrow at 10 p.m. So till then, good night, everyone. Thank you, Bijitda. Thank you, Rishi,
Thank
for
you.
coming. Thank you, audience, for your
थैंक यू सो
support.
मच.
Do share, do support us,
Anand can also
do like our
join.
streams.
Yeah, we
Jai
will.
Shri Ram, Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram.
Yeah.
जय श्री राम.
Thank you. Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram.